Hi there, Duke fans. Episode 138 of DBR Bites Duke Basketball Roundup. I am Jason. I'm here with Donald. And we had kind of suspected something like this might be coming down the line, didn't we, Donald? We're recording around 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon. This news broke on Tuesday, but we're going to react to it now. The news I'm talking about is, of course, the fact that Darian Mensah and Duke University have settled their lawsuit. All the things we've heard is that they've settled it. Both sides have agreed and everything's fine. And but it has cleared the way for Darian Mensah to go to Miami. Donald, I think he already announced his commitment. He's already announced his commitment, I believe.
Both him and Cooper Barcade announced late last night that they were committed to Miami.
We saw both Darian Mensah and Cooper Barcade on a visit to Miami on Tuesday, like shortly after the settlement was announced. They were already visiting Miami, and it took them, only a matter of hours to go ahead and make their commitment. Donald, I'll start by saying congrats to those two guys on getting paid. I'm sure that Miami paid top dollar for both of them. I think the reason we want to chat about this is the fact that Duke settled. You, as a lawyer, you said this is probably going to get settled. And you said, it's a question of how much money. We do not know how much money has changed hands. My bet is that if Duke fans heard the figure, they'd be upset, because I think we are all very, very angry, and we wanted Duke to get many millions. And I don't think we got many.
Well, Jason, I think it's a good point, right? Because throughout all this, and we talked about this when we discussed the lawsuit after it had been filed, I mentioned that there's legal stuff and then there's stuff that's emotional. The emotional part of it is people going that we capitulated, that Duke settled, and settling meaning like being a 4-letter word. And I don't think they're the people who are in that camp. And again, people are free to think that, but I don't think people in that camp are going to be happy with any dollar figure, right? Like they could have said, Mensah's got to pay $15 million, and people would go, he's still leaving us at a lurch. We can't use that money, at least this year, on NIL for other players because the portal's closed, and money that goes out. You can't like replace it with money coming back in. This is like a ledger here where you can say we took in profit and apply that towards the NIL. But I think legally, as I mentioned, 95%, even higher probably, of cases that enter this sort of portion of litigation get settled. Like that's what you aim for. And even Duke, in their statement, they kind of said, hey, we wanted to resolve this. I want to read this quickly. I want to read this correctly. We sought to resolve the matter fairly and quickly. Quickly being the key term there, because they said we don't want to have a long drawn out fight that doesn't benefit Duke. It doesn't benefit Darian Mensah. It doesn't benefit the program. They wanted to assert their rights, and they did that. And they may be one of a few teams that have actually gotten some sort of compensation from a player to be let out of an NIL deal. And whatever that number is, it's one that Duke was happy with. And we as fans don't have to be happy with it, but Duke was happy with it. And I think a lot of us would understand that Duke does not want to be drawn into a long, drawn-out litigation or arbitration where a lot of money is spent, particularly in this environment, when I might want to add, Jason, that Duke has been targeted by this administration for funding cuts. And Duke has already had to do some huge financial sacrifices in the form of cutting jobs over the last couple of months. And they've had to cut back on a lot of expenses and things like that because of being able to try and preserve some of the things that they know they need government funding for. So again, this is something where Duke did not want a long drawn out case. They wanted to figure out a way to part ways amicably, and they've done that. And I think for me, at least, it's about moving forward with the guys that we do have. I think a lot of people wanted to keep Darian Mensah there for some punitive reason, but you and I think, opined last time, we don't want a guy on our team that doesn't want to be here. He clearly didn't want to be here. He's now gone. He's gone to Miami. Cooper Barkate didn't want to be here. He's also at Miami. So we'll see him on November 14th. And until then, we're going to rock with the guys we have. Walter Eggett since then has committed to Duke from San Jose State. So he's another quarterback that's going to try and win the competition in that quarterback room. So yeah, the longest story of it, Jason, is a settlement was going to happen. It happened. And now at least Duke as a university and as a football program can move forward.
So on the settlement and on the amount of it, even though we have no idea, I feel pretty comfortable that it's probably north of $1 million. It could be multiple millions of dollars. I want to point out something to folks because it's very easy for us as fans to say, oh, an extra million here or there, extra couple few, maybe even more than that million, doesn't make up for the fact that we're not going to have a really dynamic Heisman Trophy candidate kind of quarterback on our team. The fans who feel that way are not wrong, but I want to point out a couple things. The first one is this: the money that Duke takes in, while not being money that we can spend on NIL for players, that money is capped. That money is very specific. Let's say Duke took in I'm just going to thought, again, I have no idea. Let's say Duke took in $2 million here. Well, there are other things that Duke can do with that $2 million. Maybe it's something with facilities. Maybe it's something with coaching salaries. Maybe it's something in terms of other benefits to the football team. And as a result of that, Duke may be able to free up money from donors. Ordinarily you would go out to your big money donors and say, hey, we need this or that. Can you write us a $500,000 check? Can you write us $1 million check for these kind of things? Duke may be able to go to those donors and say, you know what? Don't need that from you this year. We've got this settlement. We got a little bit of extra money. And as a result, can you turn a little more of your efforts toward our NIL, our, off the books, whatever you want to call it, the not from Duke, but from Duke boosters NIL program. So I think in that way, the money helps no matter what. There's another way the money helps. Duke had allocated $4 million toward the quarterback position for next year's team. You mentioned we've gotten Walter Eggett now. We also have Dan Mahan in the, who's also compete. We don't know who's exactly going to compete for the starting job. We think it's probably those two guys. Again, I have no idea what anybody's making from their NIL contracts, but I'll tell you for damn well sure there's no way that Walker Eggett and Dan Mahan are making anywhere close to $1 million. That'd be my bet. So Duke has freed up some money from its NIL pile, probably several million from its NIL pile, that it can now put to other positions on the field. If over the next couple weeks or in the off season over the summer, if you hear about Duke bringing in some big name player, if you hear about Duke being really successful with some guys in the portal, or perhaps retaining guys, whoever knows what it is, you may be able to look and say, oh, that's money that they were going to spend on Darian Mensah, and now they have room to spend it elsewhere. So there are a number of ways that you're able to move this money pile, so to speak, around and benefit the football team.
I mean, as fast as NIL is moving, Jason, we could use it to, it might be at some point, not so distant future, that we may use that money to get somebody who was in the NFL, right? Like that's how quickly NIL is kind of moving, right? And we've seen teams try to get guys who have been in NFL camps. That's a whole nother conversation. But again, it just because we can't use it for this one pot doesn't mean there aren't other pots that can be filled with that money. So I think you're right on that. I think the other thing, Jason, I would point out is the next call that a lot of people have seen, you've seen online and in chat rooms and on Twitter is the word tampering, right? That we should go after Miami for tampering. Well, now that the contract is done, right? Now that we have a settlement, that contract has been terminated. So there is no cause for tampering. Now, people may say, oh, this case may not deal with that. But the problem is everything that is tied to that contract, right? Any tortious interference that you would say happened would be in that particular contract, which is now ripped up. So there is nothing to go based off of that. The other thing about that is, as I mentioned in the last episode we talked about this, Xavier Lucas is still in the middle of a
Yeah,
transfer
Missouri.
tampering
Yeah.
thing. Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Sorry, Wisconsin. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
Wisconsin sued Miami for tampering, and that was over a year ago. As I've mentioned, Xavier Lucas played an entire year of football, including in the national championship game. That case has not yet reached the discovery phase. Again, it goes back to a lot of people. I get it. Again, emotional side would be Duke should go after this. We have the money to do it. We does not include me. I don't have that money. And the last thing we would probably want is for Duke to say, "Hey, we need a couple extra $1 million because we need to fight a couple of lawsuits for the next year or so," instead of putting it towards again other things in the field, facilities, coaches, NIL, what have you. So again, there's a lot of emotion around this, and that's all fair. And you should have emotion about this. I'm sure that emotion is going to kick up, Jason, on November 14th when Duke travels to Miami. It'll
In a
be
big
in a
way.
big way,
Yeah.
and we'll be right there with it. But there's some times where you have to just say, what do we want? I asked this question before. What do we want as a school? The school bit said, we want to resolve this fairly and quickly. End quote. That's what they wanted. That's what they ended up getting. We don't know the number, but I'm sure it's a number that they said, that sounds good to us. I'm sure Mensah probably said, yeah, okay, I can do that. He wasn't happy with it either. The thing about a settlement and a compromise is both parties are going to walk away from this unhappy. You can grade how what happiness is to you, but at least for those parties, both of them probably did not get everything that they wanted out of it, but they got the most important thing, which was they went their separate ways.
Yeah, and the last thing I'd say about all this is the one thing that disappoints me a little bit is we don't really know where things stand in terms of multi-year NIL contracts. I think that this probably the fact that this case caused a little bit of a headache for Darian Mensah, but then eventually he got what he wanted. He paid to get what he wanted, but he got what he wanted, and I'm very confident that whatever Miami is paying him is more than making up for whatever he is paying to Duke to make the contract go away. I would like to live in a world where multi-year contracts are something that could be real for college athletes, whether it be football or basketball or any other sport. I think having some roster stability and having some ability to say, okay, we're making a commitment to you and you're making a commitment to us, and that commitment matters the same way it does in pro sports. In every other pro sport, you can sign a multi-year contract and that binds you to your team. I wish we were in a world where that kind of thing could happen in college. And I get why Duke settled. It all makes perfect sense. But there's a little piece of me that was kind of hoping that we would hear something that would make it so that people would understand, and by people I mean athletes and agents. Oh, if I sign a multi-year deal, I need to adhere to it, because I don't think we heard that from this settlement in any way, shape, or form. And I worry that the Wild West that currently exists has not been tamed at all.
I think the term that you're going to hear a lot over the next year when it comes to multi-year potential deals is the word buyout. The reason why we were in this predicament is that Mensah tried to get out of a contract that did not have a buyout, and you kind of had to leave it to a judge, or in this case, a settlement, to figure out what that number is. I promise you that's going to be ironclad in future contracts, not just by Duke, but by other schools. If people want to have multi-year deals, it's going to be one where both parties will be able to get out of it. I say that in the same sense of, if Duke signed a quarterback and said after a year, like, you know what, that's not who we wanted, they would pay the buyout to get out of the closet. They would pay the player, hey, here's your X million or X whatever. This is how we get you out. But the stability part, it goes back to the simple root solution. The NCAA needs to be an adult, and they have not proven yet that they can do so. So until they can, we're still going to have the Wild West. And I think it's going to be incumbent on some of these teams, some of these programs to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Like, schools are probably going to get together and say, any contracts that we sign are going to got to have these things in it. We've learned from this deal that we have to include this buyout depending on what the number figure is. And honestly, Jason, you can even add a buyout based on when they exercise it, right? It will be $1 million if you do it by December 31st before the portal. But if you do it after that, it's $10 million. And that may preclude people from saying, I'm either going to enter the portal now or I'm not going to do it at all. Those are things that are going to have to be on a case-by-case basis with every single school.
Yeah, no, I would like to see something happen to make this kind of situation not befall other schools, because Duke got a little bit screwed here. There's no question about it.
Absolutely.
Speaking
we
of that,
want to keep guys. And we want to keep guys in the program. We want to get back to at least some sort of continuity with regards to college football and basketball. And again, that's a Duke thing of us. Even John Shire has talked about on the basketball side wanting to have it where you have a couple of one and dones and have a couple of guys that stay a long time. We want the continuity because people want to latch onto players and see that development grow. But if there's no buyout or anything like that, guys are just going to be free to do what they wish.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I was going to say, speaking of next year's Duke football team, we just got the schedule. We know who Duke will be playing. We know when they will be playing them. We're going to talk about that after a quick break.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Support for this show and the Fans First Sports Network comes from Strong Coffee Company. Elevate your coffee routine with Strong Coffee Company's Black Instant Blend and Lattes. Both feature organic coffee, protein, MCTs, and adaptogens for sustained energy and mental clarity. With quick delivery and exceptional taste, their coffee is a convenient option and a nutritious addition to your daily routine. Experience a healthier, most productive day with Strong Coffee Company. Visit strongcoffeecompany.com and receive 20% off at checkout using promo code FFSN. Again, strongcoffeecompany.com, FFSN.
Back from the break on the latest edition of DBR Bites. Jason and Donald here on a football episode. Kind of weird to be having a football episode at the late January, but football has been in the news in a very, very big way. And the news this week, Duke has released, or the ACC has released, Duke's schedule, the Duke football schedule for next season. We have three non-conference games. The number of non-conference games is down because the ACC is adding an extra conference game. So we only have three non-conference games. Football schedule starts out September 5th. We'll be playing Tulane in Durham. Tulane, of course, a member of the college football playoff this past year. This is a tough schedule for this Duke team. After that, September 12th, Duke goes to Illinois. Illinois, a really, really good Big Ten team. From there, we've got an ACC game against Stanford in Durham. Then our last non-conference game, September 26th, against William and Mary. This is sort of Duke's annual pasting of a Division I AA team. You know, we do it every year. And then we get into the full ACC. We take a break. We have a week off, and we get into the full ACC schedule at Georgia Tech, against North Carolina, at Virginia, Boston College coming to Durham, at NC State, at Miami, November 14th. We have circled that one on the calendar for sure. Clemson comes to Durham, and then our final game at Wake Forest. Donald, I think this is one of the tougher schedules I've ever seen for a Duke football team. What's your assessment of it?
My joking assessment is the ACC said never again. We're not doing this whole thing where Duke backs their way into the ACC championship and wins.
Well, they changed the tiebreaker rules already. So,
well, the funny thing is, I'm not even worried about the tiebreaker rules because again, it was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th tiebreaker that got us in. So you can change 1 through 4 all you want. They didn't come into play in that situation. But my point is, they added the ninth game. The ninth game is at Miami, who we've gone in the last 3 times we've played them down in Miami. We have Tulane and Illinois. Of course, those are non-conference schedule, and those are 2 teams that we lost to last year. I actually like that they're the first 2 games of the year because it gets our mind right to try and get some revenge against those 2 teams. But I think that November slate, Jason, is the killer here. At NC State, who's supposed to be much improved, at Miami, of course, that date circled for many reasons, but also Miami is expected to contend again for the college football playoff. Clemson is expected to be better. That's our last home game, and then at Wake Forest, who gave us a ride this year, and next year again is supposed to be much improved. So I'm thinking when it comes to this, this whole thing, we're going to have to start out early. If we can get a couple of wins under our belt early, that'll help with confidence. But if we struggle like we did this year, it's going to be hard to make that up before you hit November, where you really have a murderer's row of almost all the potential teams that you could see. If you think about it, for the last 7 weeks of the season, UVA, who pasted us in the regular season, we saw them in the ACC championship. Boston College is the only gimme, air quotes, right? That's the only one that you think is a winnable game. After that, NC State, Miami, Clemson, Wake Forest, you have to win at least 3 of those games to even be in consideration for a high postseason bowl or the ACC championship game.
Well, and like you say, those final 4 games, 3 of them are on the road. Clemson's the only home game. Duke, obviously you never know how the season's going to go. Rosters change, all kinds of injuries, you name it. Duke is at least somewhat likely to be an underdog in all of those games in November. The other thing that stuck out to me, Donald, so there's one bye, and your bye week is really important to teams. You need time to rest, to maybe do a reset on some things, get healthy. Football is being healthy. So we saw it this past year for Duke, where our linebacking core was just decimated. So the bye week is a crucial thing, and I think Duke just got the worst possible bye week we could. It comes after the William and Mary game, which figures to be a little bit of an easier game. And then basically from October 10th against Georgia Tech in Atlanta, from October 10th till the end of the season, it's nothing but games, nonstop, game, every single Saturday. That is a really, really tough stretch from the beginning of October to the end of November, where Duke will not get any breaks, where the schedule is very, very difficult. Like you said, with the exception of that Boston College game, and who knows, BC could be, it's not like BC doesn't try to win. BC's a still power conference team. With the exception of that BC game, there are very few games on the schedule that you look at and you go, oh, that's going to be one where we can coast a little bit. It's going to be nail biter, if not blowout, game after game after game, a really, really tough schedule.
And only 3 home games after that bye. That I think that's also where the ACC schedule didn't do us any favors. Only UNC, BC, and Clemson are our home games. Everything else is on the road. And I think you got to learn how to be a road warrior in this season for Duke. And if I may say, like, throughout all of this, right, that everything that we just talked about in the segment before about guys leaving via the transfer portal, how many guys we left, we had some guys come in, and this spring practice could be the most important spring practice in a long time at Duke, because there's a lot of competition that needs to happen. There's a lot of gelling that needs to happen. And they all, if they don't have it already, develop the chip on their shoulder. People have basically now said that they view Duke as a stepping stone to better things. But they're disrespecting the fact that that stepping stone has an ACC championship trophy sitting in its office. So we need to come out and understand that people aren't going to roll over on us either. We got to come out expecting to defend the ACC championship. I don't care how you think we got it, but we have it. And now it's time to defend it. So with that in mind, sure, it's a tough schedule, but champions get tough schedules. In the NFL, if you win your division, you get rewarded by having the toughest schedule in your division. the next year. That's just how it works because that's how they try to level the playing field. And they're having a level playing field for us. So let's go out and get it. Let's go out and play with that chip on our shoulder. Let's go pick off some wins and make this a season that people say, hey, respect to the Devils. They did their thing. Will that end in a championship? Who knows? How many times this year, Jason, did we talk about, oh, we're inside of the ACC championship. Oh, nope, never mind, we lost. Oh, nope, never mind, we're definitely out. Wait, we're back in. Oh, no, never mind. We need 15 things to happen. Wait, 15 things did happen. College football is funny. Anything can happen, and they love storylines, and they love those Cinderella moments. We can be Cinderella. So let's go get it. Put the slippers on, baby. Let's go to work.
Yeah, and I feel like it's been 4 years in a row now where I feel like Duke has exceeded expectations. Whatever people thought Duke was going to do in the preseason, Duke has been better than expectations. I think next year people will probably again think, oh, Duke's not going to be, they're going to be one of the lower tier teams in the ACC. What I saw from Manny Diaz this past year is a coach and a team that is all ready to exceed what people think they can do. When you say impossible, they go, that's our goal. So we sat here, we talked about how tough that schedule is. Manny Diaz, I'm sure, is looking at that thing. He's like, yep, I see 10, 11 wins on here. I mean,
look, that's not, and hey, that's not nothing to sneeze at, right? The last 4 years, we've had 9 wins in each of those seasons. I think we're one of like 3 college football,
it's crazy.
P5 teams that have done that. And again, and also have won a conference title, right? So everyone here is sitting there. Don't do the woe was me. We can sit here and be angry about what just transpired because we should be angry. But let's use that anger next season. We have 9 months to get it right. So I'm looking forward to the season, and sure, some of these guys are going to earn their stripes through practice and through spring practice and through the summer. And let's earn it right there with them. Let's be ready on on September 5th when Tulane comes to town.
I love it. Hey, that's going to do it. That's going to wrap it up here on the latest edition of DBR Bites Duke Basketball Roundup. Guess what, folks? We'll be back in your feed in less than 24 hours with some actual basketball content. We got to look ahead to a big game this weekend at Virginia Tech, a very, very interesting team. I can't wait to tell you all about them. We will have that coming at you very, very soon. Until then, here's the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home.